He bragged about his war record. She showed a scar and said, "That's from the war your planet lost." The Nexus Station cantina buzzed with the usual mix of interstellar travelers, merchants, and military personnel from dozens of worlds. In the far corner, Commander Crixvon of the Alterian Fifth Fleet held court at his customary table, his ceremonial armor polished to mirror brightness, as he regaled a group of younger officers with tales of his combat exploits. "The Battle of Kepler 9, he boasted, his four arms gesturing dramatically. "3 enemy dreadnoughts destroyed by my tactical brilliance alone. The hegemony forces scattered like cosmic dust before Alterian might." The assembled officers murmured appreciative sounds, their bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns that indicated admiration. Crixvon's chest swelled with pride as he continued his narrative. "Of course, none of you younglings have faced true combat," he declared, his voice carrying across several nearby tables. "Real war requires breeding, instinct, generations of warrior heritage. Not like these soft newcomer species who think diplomacy can solve everything." At a small table near the viewport, a lone figure in a worn leather jacket looked up from her drink. Captain Sarah Chen, recently arrived on a freight hauler from the outer colonies, had been quietly observing the spectacle with growing amusement. "Fascinating stories, Commander," she called out, her voice cutting through the ambient noise with casual authority. Crixvon turned, his primary eyes focusing on the human with obvious disdain. "Ah, a Deathworlder. Come to learn from your betters about proper warfare." Sarah stood, her movement fluid and controlled, and walked over to the Alterian's table. The assembled officers shifted uncomfortably as she approached. Humans had a reputation for unpredictability that made most species nervous. "Actually," she said, pulling out an empty chair without invitation, "I was curious about your service record. Kepler 9, you said? That was about 15 years ago, right?" "Indeed." Crixvon puffed up with renewed pride. "A glorious victory that established Alterian dominance in that sector." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. See, I was just a kid then, but I remember hearing about that battle. My older brother served in that sector around the same time." She paused, taking a sip of her drink. "Course, he was fighting for the other side." The table fell silent. Several officers' bioluminescent patches shifted to colors indicating confusion and alarm. "Impossible," Crixvon sputtered. "Humans weren't involved in the Kepler 9 conflict. That was between the Alterian fleet and the hegemony forces." "Oh, we were involved," Sarah said quietly. "Just not officially." "See, the hegemony hired a private military company from Earth. Elite unit called the Iron Wolves." She smiled, but there was something predatory in the expression. "Maybe you've heard of them?" Crixvon's secondary arms began trembling, an involuntary Alterian response to extreme stress. The Iron Wolves were legendary throughout the galaxy, a human mercenary unit whose very name was whispered in military academies as a cautionary tale. "You're lying," he managed. "The Iron Wolves never operated in Alterian space." Sarah shrugged and began rolling up the sleeve of her jacket. "Well, I guess my scar is lying too, then." The revealed arm showed a distinctive burn pattern, parallel lines that could only come from Alterian plasma weaponry. But what made the officers gasp was the small tattoo just below it, the snarling wolf head emblem of Earth's most feared military unit. "Kepler 9 was my first deployment," Sarah continued conversationally. "I was just 18, scared out of my mind, following my squad leader through the wreckage of your flagship after we boarded it." She traced the scar with her finger. "Got this when your glorious victory turned into a desperate fighting retreat through your own command deck." Crixvon's armor suddenly felt impossibly heavy. The official records state." "Official records say a lot of things," Sarah interrupted. They say the Altrian Fifth Fleet achieved a tactical victory before withdrawing for strategic repositioning. They don't mention that 3/4 of your ships limped away, with human boarding parties having systematically disabled your weapon systems from the inside. She stood up, downing the rest of her drink. They also don't mention that the scattered hegemony forces were actually covering the evacuation of a civilian colony that your fleet was planning to bombard. The cantina had gone completely quiet. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. "So next time you want to brag about your war record, Commander," Sarah said, pulling her sleeve back down, "maybe pick a battle where the humans weren't on the other side. Makes the story more believable." She walked back to her table, leaving behind a group of officers who suddenly found their drinks much more interesting than their commander's war stories. Krixvon never spoke of the Battle of Kepler 9 again.